Hey, everybody. Scott Clark, Jeff Rye, Nate Burgess. I'm Kenya Clark. We're here with John O'Brien from Grandpa Ray Outdoors. If you guys want to, go back and listen to episode number 41. That's where we first talked to John, the first time he was on the podcast, and we got kind of into his background in the seed business and where he kind of came from and how he started Grandpa Ray Outdoors. So tonight we're going to get into more of just the food plot stuff. So since everybody kind of got to know you on the last one, we'll get into that stuff. But how's everything been, man? It's been a while since we talked to you.
Yeah, things this time of year tend to be really busy, although Grandpa Ray Outdoors is a 365-day-a-year company. You know, we're always doing something, whether it be planning ahead to the next year, purchasing products, almost a year in advance for from when we need them, individual plans, or even like in-season shipments. We're basically shipping seed all year round. And so, some people will say, hey, I mean, this is your busy season. And my answer is generally, it's always busy season with Grandpa Ray Outdoors.
Right. Would you say right now is probably your most busy time, or is it the fall, or is it kind of both?
Well, we're definitely more busy this time of year because we wear a lot of hats. There's some challenges with shipping. We have our online business with a lot of daily orders, but then this is when the dealers, starting in February, a lot of the dealers around the United States, are stocking their shelves, and so with today's trucking industry, you're always getting product in, you're always getting product, shipping out. And, it's fairly easy to get product in, but as far as shipping multiple pallets, arranging for trucking companies to show up on a reliable schedule, there's just a lot of behind the scenes stuff that the average person maybe is not quite as aware of that leads to a lot of work and some challenges for people that are, this is their career and this is their industry.
Yep, no doubt. So I think the last time we talked to you is probably still seeing some effect from all the COVID stuff. Is that, are we kind of getting past that with the seed industry, or is there still some kind of residual effect from all that crap, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, so that's part of it. I mean, a lot of people think that's part of it, but really the biggest issue in the seed industry is the seed supply chain because of Mother Nature.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of years ago, we had a lot of that 110, 120 degree weather out in Oregon, which is an anomaly.
Right.
In Oregon and Washington, and that's where there's a lot of seed being grown out there, along with the Dakotas. And then more recently here in the last year, there's a lot of issues in the Southern Hemisphere and the New Zealand area, which there's a lot of brassicas and improved genetic clovers.
Mm-hmm.
So production, was way down, and there's certain items that seed supply had a crunch on just because there's some limited crop with some common products, and next to no crop in some cases, and Mother Nature. People don't always think about where seeds grown and how Mother Nature affects the that market from grower to end user.
Yeah, I don't think you're probably right. A lot of guys that are doing food plots think about that. Obviously, it affects. We think about it with agriculture as far as corn and beans go, where we're at, for example, that affects all the price and stuff on the weather. But you won't think about it a lot of times for your food plot seed. But all that stuff's got to grow somewhere, right?
Right, and the one thing is, a lot of the food plot seed forages, they're not real. For the most part, most of them are not developed and grown for wildlife. They're grown and developed for the farming area, the grazing community, and then there's certain genetics that's selected that can cross over. So wildlife doesn't put a big dent in the supply chain. The farming world does, and when you have Mother Nature creeping in, even with things like floods and extreme heat, where you have a lot of crop loss, there's a lot of seed getting sucked up, from the farm, side of things.
Yeah. So getting into the food plot stuff, one of the things I wanted to ask you was, what are some of because you guys do a lot of, I don't know if you would call it consulting or not, but helping guys out as far as making decisions on stuff as well, I'd assume. So what are some of the most common questions you get when it comes to guys looking for food plot seed? Is it what to plant, when to plant, all of those things? And how much of that is depending on where they're coming to you from, whether that be Michigan or Georgia or somewhere in between.
Yeah, so I myself get on about 50 properties a year, and there's enough demand to get on much more, but because of being a father and then all my other ventures, I can't get on quite as many properties, but I'm actually on 50 properties around the U.S., and I also probably do at least 200 detailed food plot plans every year.
Mm-hmm.
So on an almost daily basis, I'm telling people what to plant, where to plant, how to plant, how to fertilize, maybe what herbicides to use, and other more detailed information. So we're not a seed peddling company. We're not selling bags, even though the products are actually in a bag. We're selling added value, mm-hmm. which is my career expertise and the research side of things, which we say we're America's wildlife research company, which is highly accurate. I mean, we do more research than anybody, and so that's part of the consulting as well. We know what we say. We say what we know, and we know these products as well as anybody mm-hmm. because of hard work.
Yeah, that's a big thing I think we like about you guys, especially is you don't get that aspect of it from just a bag on a Walmart shelf or some of the other big companies. There's not really a face or a guy or even a handful of guys that you can go talk to from that company that's going to have that knowledge base, the experience, and the level of research that you guys are doing that you can go talk to.
Well, that's a double-edged sword. So, I mean, I hear it every day. People, are so surprised by the attention, the time I give people, and the knowledge and information. And yet the downside is that keeps me pretty busy. There's mm-hmm. times where I might have 40 to 60 emails a day and a number of phone calls, and so it's not really a complaint. It's just that it sometimes kind of gets to be there's only so many hours in the day, and yet. We're there. I mean, we do this for a living versus a high percentage of the wild companies that sell wildlife seed. They have other jobs. This is like a hobby or a sidelight, and this mm-hmm. is our life, which I don't know. I'm not saying it to brag. it's just the reality of it, which is maybe why we have the client base we do, because people reach out to us because they know what we're about.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, and I seen a sign of that when we was up there at the Iowa Deer Classic. We had some of your products for sale up there, John, and there was, I can't remember the individual, but he come up there and he said, "Grandpa Ray's," and he said, "I want every bag of it that you got." So your reputation precedes you in that area with certain mm-hmm. people, yep. And so I was really impressed with that even though we was up there at Iowa, everybody recognized Grandpa Ray's, and that one guy, he bought us out right there. Mm. And so it's impressive to me. I it told me more about you and what you guys are about.
Well, and we've kind of taken a different approach. Most companies are marketing and they're doing a lot of search engine optimization, and it's all about the bag and spending the dollar to to get people to buy the bag. Mm-hmm. And in some ways, we're almost like that company that the hardcore select few know about, and we have a pretty strong following where our goal has always been treat people well, make sure they have success. They're going to keep coming back, and
right.
Selling product at a fair price, and that is what we pride ourselves on.
Yeah, there's definitely seems to be a lot of loyalty there with the Grandpa Ray's brand. And actually, you said that and it reminded me of something. We met your cousin up there at the show, too, or one of your cousins. I assume like the rest of us, you probably have many, but I can't for the life of me remember his name. But he was bragging on you, too, so he didn't say anything bad.
Yeah, you didn't piss off any family members, evidently.
Well, I mean, my dad had 9 other brothers and a sister on my mom's side. So, I probably got, when you say a cousin, I mean, it could be one of 60 or 70. Yeah. If you're talking first cousins, and if you're talking seconds and thirds and fourths, that's a whole other, story probably.
Oh, man.
So,
yep.
Well, I can only guess.
Yep. So. It's cool, though. It is kind of a small world. He just saw that bag of seed sitting there on our table. He said, "Oh, hey, John's my cousin. cousin, this and that, and we got to talk to him for a little bit. But that's one thing we do enjoy about going to those shows and stuff, and I know you've been to several, is getting to meet all the people, not only in the industry, but all the consumers and stuff, and kind of build those relationships with them, and then that does help build that brand loyalty that you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like at shows, we have a different outlook with shows. A lot of companies go there with their hopes and dreams of selling a lot of seed, and as you're aware, some of these shows like Iowa in particular, in Wisconsin, I mean, there's might be 20 vendors that are selling, seed, and you might hear, and I've heard this different times, even this year, it's like, oh, we're selling the same thing as Grand Parades. Well, we chuckle, my employee and I, and that seems to be, maybe it's a compliment. I mean, companies,
right,
are trying to mimic us, and they're telling people that they're selling the same thing, which, there's some of the same products in the bag, but they're not selling what I'm selling. Or I'm not selling a bag. I'm selling, giving an honest answer and always being there and being available. Where, you want to call me, you're actually getting a hold of the owner,
right,
and you're actually getting a hold of them during 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. daytime hours.
Mm-hmm. That's something that we talk to a lot of people about too, not only at the shows but just in general. Like if we go on a client property or something, when we talk about the seed, the difference in this quality of seed that you're going to get, it's not only the quality of the actual seed, but the amount of seed you're going to get per bag. Whereas you go and buy something on the shelf at a box store, if you go and look on the label of that thing, the germination rates just aren't there. The inert matter is a high percentage that's in the bag. It's just it's not a lot of pure seed. So we talk to a lot of people about that. Obviously that's something you guys pride yourself on as well.
Yeah, and we educate on that on occasion. We probably should do it more. There's different standards for quality, and some of it can be geographically. Certain areas of the United States, the growing conditions aren't quite the same, and seed testing standards vary from state to state. And so my philosophy is I want to sell the best seed I can get my hands on, and if something is of a quality that I wouldn't want to buy myself, I'm not going to sell it. I mean, not that you're never going to get a lot of seed that might have 80% or 85% germ, but most seed we're selling is 90, 95, where there's a lot of 80, 85% germ count seed in the industry. We mainly only sell seed that's coated if that's the only way you can get it.
Right.
Not that I'm bashing coated seed, but we're pride ourselves on, people getting what they pay for, pure life seed. Exceptions, the rule being some of our forages like Frosty Burstein, Balanza Fixation Clover, where the seed size is really, really small, kind of like along the lines of maybe switchgrass, where it helps with some spreadability, and in some cases they take unique inoculants, and that's another means to get it applied onto the product. So, we're not 100% non-coated, but we prefer selling uncoated seed if at all possible.
Right.
John, what would you say your most popular blends are? I believe last time you said Frosty Delight, especially for you guys up much further north than we are. Is that still the case?
It's probably changed a little bit. I mean, it depends on if you're, looking at weight, pounds wise, because things like Frosty Delight, you have a lower seeding rate, like 8 to 10 pounds an acre versus something like my grains and greens, which has become my biggest seller, because your seeding rates are 20 or 50 pounds an acre, and because of the movement towards regenerative food plotting, regenerative ag, with a couple of tweaks we made with grains and greens, that's a mix that's incredible from Florida to Maine to Texas to Idaho. So that's a product it's the same as most products. I mean, there's very few products you can't place anywhere in the U.S. because of how we formulate, blend, and the genetics that we're incorporating into our blends. So, so Frosted Light is a really popular seller, but grains and greens, as well as our newer product, called Smart Cover, are by far our biggest volume movers at the present time.
So tell us a little bit about that Smart Cover.
Smart Cover is a name change. Not that we never try to, improve or focus on branding, but it used to be our old soil builder product, and
Okay.
we decided to maybe make it a little bit. We tweaked the name a little bit. We changed the formula slightly, increased the seeding rates, which is something that I was noticing. With all of our mixes, I mean, we're always replanting them, many different locations. We're always looking at from year to year, considering is there any tweaks that we need to make? Is there even newer improved genetics we might want to incorporate in these products? So Smart Cover, we wanted to make it a total smother crop. I mean, make it like a product that you could leave if you wanted to leave it all season. We wanted to, increase the ability to naturally suppress weeds even above and beyond what it already was. So, we're always evaluating from year to year as far as how can we do better. And that's one of my curses. I'm a perfectionist when it comes to food plots. So I'm always thinking, even though it's great, even though it's better than what's out there, what's the next level?
Right. And I assume that's a year-to-year thing. Is the seed industry like a lot of other industries where there's always new developments and always new stuff coming out? And then even with that, I'd assume there's probably some stuff that just because it's new doesn't mean it's good, so you're kind of waiting to see what new stuff is worthwhile. Is there that in the seed industry like it seems like there is in everything else?
There's not nearly the money and the demand and versus the early 90s when I got in the seed industry.
Mm-hmm.
There's always stuff in the pipeline, but what's in the pipeline is way lower than what it used to be. And for different reasons. There's less farmers that are rotational grazing. There's less dairy farmers grazing, so the movement is there's still new improved genetics, but as one of the guys that's really respected in the industry, he basically is like, it's all about making money too. I mean, it costs a lot of money and it takes a lot of years to get product from development to where they start making profit. So a lot of the amount of companies that are own and develop a lot of seed is really plunged. I mean, there's only a handful of really big players in the industry. And, if they're trying to develop a lot of products, I mean, that's just a huge amount of investment,
Mm-hmm.
that can take 7 to 10 years to get your money back. So, it's kind of twofold why you don't see quite as much new genetics, but we're always aware of it because sometimes we're a part of that research,
Mm-hmm.
and we're always looking to buy something new.
Right. And I'd say you kind of have to be that way, not only maybe to stay ahead of competitors, but again, to have that available for your consumers that are so loyal to you. If they see something new out there that they want to go try, and it is an effective, efficient seed, and you don't have it, that may be something where they would go to a different company, I would assume.
Yeah, well, that's part of there's one of the most incredible Nebraska that we've tested out there for a number of years. We bought it all up. There's none to be had in the U.S. So other companies that say they sell what Grandpa Ray's does, it's definitely untrue because they can't get it. And
Right.
and so there's a number of products we sell that either nobody's selling or very few people can. Not that there's companies that are not aware of it, because people are always following us and wanting to use our research to help with their own lineups, but there's products that either don't fit their price point.
Mm-hmm.
The wildlife industry sells rape that's only and we're buying some genetics that's 6 to 8 times the cost of what the industry loves to sell.
Right.
So when a lot of companies out there, their whole game is making profit, they're not even going to bring on some of these products onto their lineup because they're like, yeah, I'm not paying $5 a pound. I can get stuff for 80 cents a pound.
Mm-hmm.
The average consumer doesn't know the difference. Why would I do that?
Right. Yeah.
So there is that element, and that's the cold hard truth. I mean, not that I don't want to make any profit, but I want to have happy customers that come back year after year versus a one-time sale and selling
Mm-hmm.
that bag.
Yep. while you're talking about brassicas there, I know, again, this is another thing that we covered last time a little bit, but what is the biggest reasons that you see that people don't have success with their brassica plots? I think last time you mentioned it was part of it had to do with planting time a lot and the maturity of the plant in correlation with the season, the timing of the season. Is it that? Is it some of the deer having to get used to it? Is it some places the deer just don't like them as much as others? What's been your experience with that? And again, I know we've talked about it before, but it's still a really common question, it seems like.
Yeah. So I was supposed to have released the book of brassicas around the holidays, and I've had a lot of things that have come up that's delayed that.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe that's the answer. I mean, there's a whole book of answers to that, the book of brassicas. And so the brassicas are the most misunderstood. Next to nobody knows how to fertilize them right. And the genetics, for the most part, sold by the wildlife industry is not insect resistant, disease resistant, higher sugar. Most of what's being sold by industry is not these newer genetics that you've kind of inquired about, last question ago. So genetics matter, fertilization, the proper nutrients matter. Planting times, we saw a lot of longer day brassicas that give you more of a longer window. We saw brassicas that tend to be higher in sugar. And also, brassicas don't like being wet. So there's a lot of guys planting different brassica blends in the wrong spots. So, for example, that's one of the reasons why we don't just sell pure brassica blends. We have our fall draw that's also got annual clovers in there. We have our grains and greens that's got different, grains. And so you're not talking pure brassica blends.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the exposure you brought up is one consideration. And that's one thing that, we when I do my plans that you asked about, there's different things that we do to get deer used to it. For example, we have some kale in our inner sanctum, which typically is planted in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
And we're even, and you won't find it on the website right now, but we've been experimenting with long day brassicas. Our program members have exposure to it. We're debating about releasing a blend that's June planting brassica blend, which again, if it's planted earlier, the deer are getting even earlier exposure to trying it, even though it won't be as the most desirable forage during the summer months, but at least they're getting little bites of it. Mm-hmm. And so, there's a little psychological element to it as well. So
for sure.
Hey, John, I'm intrigued on this book. You want to elaborate on that a little bit, or?
Yeah, I've written 3 previous books, and this is the 4th book in the series, and it's called The Book of Brassicas. And so, I've been planting brassicas, for 30-some years, and like I said, we have by far the biggest library of brassica research, everything from yield to what's actually inside these brassicas, the nutrients, which also gives you an insight on how to manipulate it, how to fertilize it. So we'll be talking about a lot of different varieties and of brassicas. We'll be talking about when you asked about proper fertilization of brassicas. Will be some of the same things we've already discussed briefly here. Mm-hmm. Will be covered in the book, and that's the thing that's hard for me. Like on social media, everybody wants a canned answer, and there's not one answer that's like, how do you get deer to eat brassicas better?
Right.
My answer is there's probably 20 elements of it, and I understand why it could be a lot for guys, but with anything else, it's never one thing. There's never one reason for failure.
Right.
So do you have a projected date? And if so, and where could a guy pick this book up at, and your other 3 as well?
Yeah, it's probably going to end up being, late fall or closer to the holidays again. And currently people can buy my books on, my website. We sell them either as a bundle or you can buy them individual, and mm-hmm. that's where we'll be placing that when the book comes out. You'll be able to find it on my website. which is www.grandpaoutdoors.com.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll link all that stuff in the description as well. That way people can find it. But also, if you want, when that book does come out, for sure let us know about it, and we'll announce it on the podcast, and we'll get it put out there for you as well. Because anything we can do to help with that, because I think that will be a really good resource for people as well. Because like you said, in this world that we live in now of 30-second snapshot videos and just short answers on social media, it'd be nice to have a long form place that they can find the answers to the questions they might have when it comes to, in this case, specifically brassicas.
Yeah, and I hear that a lot from customers that bought my books. They're like, yeah, people admit that they'll go back and reread some of these books or certain topics in there, numerous times. And, I even got in mind what my next book is going to be, just because it's one of the other most common, discussion, topics on social media. And for me, somebody like me, I mean, I have a hard time, responding in front of the masses, because, everybody wants that canned answer. And, I've dealt with these forages for decades, and, some, people might be perceived as like, hey, this is a guy that thinks he knows it all. And, and from my perspective, is like, I like to think that there's not much I don't know about most of these forages, just because this has been my life 24/7, 365 for so many years. And so I sometimes have a hard time dialing in these answers to make it as edited as short as can be.
Right.
And, when it gets a little long-winded, I mean, I kind of understand it. I mean, I might feel bad, but, I just try to give people the best answers as I can, and hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, you don't want to leave anything out.
So you touched on something on Nebraska's about getting the deer used to it. We planted some of your brassicas on my acreage last fall, and I can't remember what we planted.
We planted the Southern Jubilee.
Southern Jubilee.
Yep.
Okay, and we also mixed some wheat notes in with it, and it seemed like my deer really didn't hit the brassicas that much. They'd eat the wheat notes, but now, I mean, they'd sample it a little bit, but then they'd move on. But now my brassicas are greening up, coming up off the root system. Should I let them go, and will that help the deer get used to them and then replant them this fall? I mean, as a consumer, I don't know, and so that's why I'm asking, what is your advice on that?
Yeah, in some areas, when you get farther south, some of these brassicas are not, dying off, or, and again, there's some cases you might have some seeds that, for whatever reason, there's been areas of the U.S. where you had extreme drought and you didn't see full, germination last fall. So, like, if you do see some regrowth of brassicas or spring, germination, although in some cases there could be some, you'll see out there maybe some winter rapes and that are, designed to, regrow. It's just a matter of like how much, how dense of regrowth it is, because in most cases, I mean, my philosophy is to be always replanting, not leaving bare ground, because that's weeds establish.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're no-tilling or overseeding, other blends into it, I mean, not that you have to terminate it at all. It's just a matter of, like, how much do you leave? Is it really worth leaving it? And, and again, in your case, because you guys are planting a little bit farther south, that's kind of why you're seeing some of that. So, with some of this regrowth, I mean, it isn't always the most, nutritious.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on what brassicas, you're talking about that are regrowing. Just because they're more of a cool season product typically. And so that's why if you want brassicas to grow during these warm summer months, you really need to be looking at, these slower growing, longer day brassicas that tolerate the heat better, because, the deer it's all about sugar. I mean, the deer, just because something's growing and looks good, but if it's bitter, and maybe that's like something that that most people don't think about. I've been exposed to that my whole life. My grandpa was always a sampler of clovers or whatever was growing in the field, and he kind of taught me to like how to taste forages. If it tastes bitter to us, it probably tastes bitter to a deer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like I'm always sampling, and again another little trick that most guys won't do is you can actually use a refractometer. For some of those guys that are fermenting wines. I mean, you're aware of what bricks and sugars and the importance, and so you can actually measure sugar content in forages growing, and so deer have a sweet tooth. No matter if you're talking brassicas, clovers, you name it, it's a strong correlation between if one forage is sweeter than another,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to tend to be more desirable, and there's a lot of factors that affect what makes it sweet at that point in time.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I don't want to run too much of your time out here. We're getting close. So before we get you out of here, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, the GRO membership. Can you tell us a little bit about that and tell people how they can get into that if you guys are still doing that?
Yeah, we still do. So we do sell it on the website, or if people don't have a credit card, or they can call me. Sometimes at shows we sign people up, but it's $25 a year for a regular membership. You get a newsletter, you get access to a private Facebook page, you get monthly specials, end of the year specials, dealer return specials, and VIP invites to some special events. And then this year we went to even a silver membership where you get all that, plus a special Team Giro hat and a updated food plot guidebook. And so on the website, just like I mentioned with, where you can buy the books, you can become a member of either the silver or regular membership on grandpaoutdoors.com.
Okay, cool. And where can people find Grandpa Ray on social media? And then, of course, their website is grandpaoutdoors.com. But as far as the social sites, where can they find you or Grandpa Ray Outdoors?
Yeah, I got a YouTube video, Grandpa Outdoors YouTube video. There's probably 140, 150 videos there.
Okay.
And also I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Okay.
On Facebook it's Grandpa Outdoors. All of them it's Grandpa Outdoors. So, and again, I'm hoping that, in this industry, there's so many people trying to create content.
Mm-hmm.
And, the content we're going to be showing, which is typical, is, more of our plantings, more of our research, more of the why versus, what you typically might see out there. So,
right.
And we also have a page called Extreme Property Makeover. That's Aaron Begelke's page where we have done deer schools, and there's a lot of really unique research that is cutting edge. So that's a element of Grandpa Outdoors. It's not a Grandpa Outdoors Facebook page, but it's it's my shipper, and it's one of my sand growing research properties that we host events, and so people could follow that on Facebook as well.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll let you get out of here, John. We really appreciate you coming back on. We appreciate the partnership on the podcast and you putting out a good quality seed, because, again, that's kind of how we found out about you guys in the first place, just looking for a better seed to use. And literally everything we've planted from Kansas to eastern Kentucky, from northern Illinois, all the way down to almost Tennessee, I mean, it's grown as well as it's been advertised to grow. So, again, just thanks for coming on. Thanks for working with us, and we're looking forward to keeping that going.
Yeah, thanks much for having me on, and hopefully I gave some people food for thought.
Yep, for sure. Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Yep. See you, John.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, so that was John from Grandpa Ray. You need to get out of here?
I was going to.
Oh, well, we was about 30 minutes in, so I was going to see if, we could do a little bit of update here.
Oh, I thought you might.
Well, you need a second?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you got to piss?
Yeah.
Okay, well, go piss.
That's what I thought you might do, was kill everything and then just come back on, because I'm sure Fry does too.
No, I'm good.
No, you're good.
Okay. Well, go ahead. We'll come back. I wanted to kind of do just a little bit of update since everybody's here on the plots and everything going on, projects that we've talked about in the past, all that kind of good stuff. So I did get, if you saw, anybody listening saw it on YouTube, We got started at the cabin. You saw it. I was
Yeah.
going to take you out there and
Yeah.
see it, and you ain't seen it yet. Anyway, I got like a half acre cleared out up there that I need to
I seen your YouTube video.
do some fertilizing and disking on. But I've finally got that project going, so I'll keep that updated as we go. I got to get those videos from you from when you did the mowing on yours.
Oh, yeah.
So we need to get some video from that, but then we'll update that. But I know you've got some different plans, maybe potentially for this year you've been kicking around that we haven't talked about on here yet. For the Fry property that we'll cover that in the vlog too, but
Right.
just an update on where everything's at.
Got to get the drone in the air.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
got
I'll
to
get the
get the
drone
drone up
out.
in there.
Yep.
We've been kind of lax on that.
I wish that it would take
Work gets in the way.
It does,
Yeah,
don't it?
damn it.
and rain.
It really ain't that much fun.
Not as much fun as it used to be.
Not as much
Apparently
fun.
not as
what-
much fun as what Nate's having at work.
Yeah.
No, this is
Oh,
you got to be a farmer to get into that.
oh, okay.
Okay. Anyways,
Well,
before somebody gets in trouble.
we all plow up different directions.
Wow, where was we?
You were talking about your food plot.
Oh yeah. Well, the clover's doing great. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it. Have you seen it? Have you been out there to look at it?
Yeah.
My goodness, it's all half knee high out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
It looks a lot like that one I sent pictures of from yesterday.
yes.
Yesterday.
The clover and alfalfa's doing tremendous. Got a few weeds in there, you know, we're going to take care of with mowing, and a little bit of grass, just little clumps here and there in the thin areas, what thin areas there is.
Right.
But, you know, I think a lot of that, we had that first planting that we did last year
Mhm.
in the spring, and then you reseeded it again that fall, and then we reseeded it again. We frost seeded it.
Yeah, we did a little bit in the fall, which was mostly a good portion of that was chicory because we didn't mix it in the spring.
Yeah, but I haven't seen much chicken.
Well, I wonder if the clover
I
hasn't
think
grown
it
up so
choked it-
much
I
it's
think it
shaded
choked it
out.
out.
It's probably shaded
I
it
really
out.
do.
Yeah.
'Cause,
That seed's probably still there.
yeah.
It just hasn't had a chance to get much sunlight, I bet.
No.
So
because
when we go to mow it this summer, we may see some more that come up.
we might. I'm hoping so.
But even if not, I mean, it's not like they haven't been using it.
Oh, no, they've been using it.
Yeah.
They've been using it a lot.
Yeah.
And, I mean, even where I mow the yard there on the wood side edge of it, you know, I can see tracks where the deer's coming out of the woods across the yard going straight to the clover. And then you can go out there and you can track them since it's been so wet.
Right.
You know, you can go out there and you can see where they're just standing there and just eating the tops out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I got clover blooming now. I'll probably let those blooms die before we mow it. That way we reseed
Yeah,
it
that way
again.
it seeds it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't have that tea weed
Mhm.
like the issue we had last summer with
Yeah.
it.
The nettle that was coming in from the.
Yeah, that tea nettle. Yeah. I don't have that issue now that I can see. I go out there when I get off work. I go out there every evening. I don't know. I guess it's the farmer in me or something, but you know, I just go out there every evening and look at it. And
You got a farmer in you?
yeah, well, in my blood. How's that?
Just asking.
But
I may have misunderstood.
I'm assuming you did. So, anyways, you know, I'm impressed with the clover. I like that plot. It's doing really, really well. I had the neighbor come. He spread 3 loads of cow manure on where I'd mowed down the corn and the beans. He spread that out. It's dried. Well, it was dried out until tonight. We're getting a mild shower.
I've heard cow manure described as political promises as well.
Well, it can be.
Cow manure is probably more beneficial,
I'm thinking.
Yeah.
especially in this instance.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to have Biden and the rest of them out there on my food plots. You know, which it may be better. I don't know. The results are yet to be seen. But yeah, I kicked around planting Sudan grass along the road for more of a screening, but talking to some guys that's grown that for hay and stuff, they say that it grows up real nice and big in the summer months, but then once the frost and stuff comes and then it falls down flat.
Yeah.
I'd always heard
That's an
the problem
annual
with
as
it.
well, is it not?
No, they said it will reseed
Oh,
itself.
will it spring?
Yeah,
Okay.
they said it'll come back. Every
Doesn't
year.
like the cold.
It just don't like the cold.
To get
Yeah.
down.
It doesn't have the stalk to support itself in that.
Yeah.
Like the switchgrass does.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't
And-
stay up all year.
Right. And so I'll probably just go back to planting corn along the roadside.
Was that like 3 Peter jokes we made in the,
I don't
in the
know.
last 5 minutes?
I'm trying to ignore all of it.
Anyway,
Anyways, I'm going to go back to planting corn for the screening naturally.
yeah.
And then I'm going to mix some milo and beans in with it too. I want to break that up.
Yeah, that'll be different this year with adding the milo into it.
Yeah, and the milo, not so much just for a food source for them because they will find it and figure it out and eat it.
Right.
But also, milo stands up better during the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it'll provide even more screening
Yeah.
and make them feel more secure.
Yep.
Because if you ever hunted, even in a cut milo field, about all you can see is their head sticking out. you
They
know.
feel good about it, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
They do. Well, you shot that one.
Yeah, we
Don't-
never found her.
Only reason we found her is because I stepped on her. Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. I mean,
And it was cut.
it was cut milo.
Man.
I'm thinking about doing some of that at the cabin because, again, like I think we were talking about off air, but like with them figuring out the brassicas, like we talked with John about, I think there at the cabin they will be more apt to figure out the milo even sooner because of the lack of food there.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's also going to provide, I think I'll do it on kind of the south part of that plot, provide some screening and a little extra room for them to even bed in part of it.
Yeah.
And I'll still be able to slip in there around them, but just a little bit. And again, that's something that you can plant if you don't have the room. And I think I talked about it on a Full Draw Friday maybe. But if you don't have the room to plant like corn or beans, especially if you have the browse pressure, milo's a good option because they won't eat it until it's matured.
Right.
And then eventually they'll figure out that they can eat it. The farther north you go, the earlier it is. It may get into like September, but where we're at, it hits the most desirable stage for them around like October, even middle of October. And once they figure that out, then you have a grain that you can plant that is going to make it to the hunting season.
Right.
Because even after they figure out they're going to eat the heads off of it, they're not going to eat it when it's in its growing stages,
Right.
in the early growing stages, like they will corn.
Right. And not only that, also, I don't know, predation and habitat losses took a really big toll on the quail and even the rabbit population around this area. Since we've started doing this, I've noticed a big improvement in rabbit population.
Yeah.
And, they was hiding in the switchgrass and stuff, but the milo, they can hide in it even better.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And so that gives them a habitat. And plus the quail, any seeds and stuff that falls out of the milo head, the quail's is going to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not all just about the deer.
Yeah, it's a good wildlife crop.
It's just a wildlife crop, period.
Yep. The thing I will say about milo is you want, and this guys I've talked to that planted it from our experience planting it, and your experience planting it way back when, and I don't know how much of this you guys did, but it's a definitely good option. You want to have a good pre-emergent with a good residual and plant it shortly after you put the pre-emergent down, because once it comes up, there's nothing you can spray milo with. They don't make a Roundup Ready milo. So if you're in an area where you don't have a lot of grass issues, you could maybe spray a 2,4-D on it because that won't kill it. But do that and plant it on 15-inch rows, because we've done both where we planted on 15s and 30s, and really it's meant to be planted on 15s. But like if you have a 2-row planter like what I got, it's 30-inch rows. So if you were just thinking, just go plant it without coming in between them, I would recommend putting it on 15 because that's going to shade out some of your competition as well from the weeds and grasses. So that'll help as well. That's the biggest downfall, in my opinion, to the milo is it's hard to control grasses in it, but it can be avoided. And if you do have some grass in it, it's like we say all the time, just remember you're not doing it to harvest. As long as you got that crop where it's growing up and the grass isn't choking it out, you're still going to have the benefit of having it there. It's just going to be that much thicker, really, when you're talking about cover.
Right. And I think, no, I may be wrong, but I think at one time they was trying to come out for Roundup Ready milo, but it was really, really, really pricey.
Yeah.
I remember when we grew it as a farm crop, Dad come up with a concoction, and I wish I had wrote it down.
Yeah.
But he had come up with a concoction of chemicals that he had the custom sprayers over here, Ag Place, spray for us. And, man, it was some of the cleanest Milo around, you know.
Right.
It was just strictly Milo.
Yep.
But you ain't got no hair, Jeff.
No, I don't. But what does that have to do with Milo?
Might have something to do with all that concoction.
Well, it might have.
It could be genetic.
And that could be part of it, too.
It's a farmer in him.
Yeah. Or it could be just be stress.
Yeah. Surely
But-
not.
But it did work.
But it worked.
I'd
mean,
never heard of that.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't have no weeds or grass in it at all.
Huh.
But and that was mostly a pre-emergent that he sprayed before the Milo came up itself.
Yep.
And like I said, if I knew then that we'd be doing this now,
Right.
well, then I would have gotten that information
Recipe.
down, that recipe.
Yeah.
Well, before we turn this into a Milo podcast, because we could probably talk about grains and stuff forever.
Right, but I'm just
No, yeah, that's fine. I just want to get to Nate, what you got, and if anything, if you've started on anything yet, because I know we talked about your plans for doing. I
Big-
can't even ask it because I know the answer.
Big plans.
Yeah, we talked about hinge cutting and burning stuff, and
Big plans.
how's that going for you?
Minimal progress.
What seems to be the problem?
You ain't got no farmer in you?
Nope. Technically, that's what I'm doing. Technically.
Cutting down trees?
Nah,
Is that what
we've
you're getting
been-
at?
I don't mean to laugh at you that much. I just couldn't even.
It's the truth. I have discussed with the appropriate people what all that I want to do. It is a
Yeah.
go. Gosh, I just got to find the time to do it.
Yeah.
Because we have had a few. This right here that we're in has been the third stretch of about 2 or 3 days where it's been fit for field work. We've had, I think this is the third stretch where we've had 2 or 3 days that the guys could get out in the field, and now it's raining right now while we're recording this. So anyway, when it's been
So
decent,
there's that.
yeah, when it's been decent at all,
Which this will have been like a week and a half ago
true
that we're
yeah.
talking about this. But anyway, just for everybody
When it-
listening to
when
kind
this
of,
comes out, hopefully it ain't rained for 10 days, and
Yeah.
we're just getting all this stuff done.
Right.
You know.
which as of right now, I don't think it's supposed to.
Yeah,
Is it-
I hadn't seen anything else. I hadn't seen anything else in the forecast.
Yeah.
There's some small chances later
on
in
the
the week,
first.
Really?
Yeah.
Doggone.
but small chances. Of course,
Yeah.
those will probably more than likely increase before.
Grow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So-
But yep, I ain't had any progress yet.
Yeah.
I do plan on planting quite a bit of corn.
Yeah.
I got the corn. That was a gift from a gracious individual.
Yeah.
Rim, he got some corn because they were just going to get rid of it. So anyway, it was last year. What stuff they planted last year? Their seed corn last
Yeah.
year. So it's good stuff. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's good stuff. But I want to get the prices right, so I want to get that stuff in the ground if I can at all. You know,
Mhm.
and then hinge cutting. I really need to get that hinge cutting done. I got to make that wood thicker.
Yeah.
And it's not going to get any thicker without me doing something.
Running out of time to make it thicker for this year.
Yep.
And it will, I mean, it'll still get thicker to a certain extent,
Yep.
but not to the potential it could. And it's just going to be more of a pain in the butt to get in there and do it.
Yep. What I'm going to want to hinge cut, they're all hardwoods. I do not expect them to hinge cut well.
Right.
We've
Definitely waited long enough where we don't have to worry, where you're not going to have to worry about the cold temperatures
correct.
like we did probably the last time we talked about this in
Yes.
February.
Yep. So they should be leafed out well. So when they do die, I think they will die when they come down. But either way,
Yeah.
whatever happens, whether they die or whether they live, it's going to increase my ground cover.
Yep.
You know,
In your brows.
by these things being out of the canopy.
Yep.
And overall, that's the goal.
Yep.
So anyway, if they do die, they're going to have leaves all over them. So they'll hold their leaves and at least give them, sideways visual cover. With all these treetops on the ground at that point.
Yep.
And then stuff should grow up through them.
Yeah.
But anyway, no real progress. I want to get a couple clover plots redone this spring, and I know I can get that done because they're just quarter acre, half acre little patches.
Yep.
But anyway, still yet lots of big ideas, no progress.
Yeah. That's where we're at on that. Hopefully we'll do some video on that too.
Yes. So I'd love to get the drone up. see what the canopy looks like with all those trees standing, then see what it looks like when all them things are down. You know, I'd be interested.
Yeah.
You can come to my woods and look at that.
Yeah.
It gets real spotty, don't it?
Yes, it gets very spotty.
Yep. So that's no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to add to the, I'm going to put that clover plot in over there in that other property that I hunt, and I went and sprayed it. Maybe 2 weeks ago Saturday.
At least.
Yeah, maybe 3.
Yeah, so that stuff should be dying, and
Yep.
I mean, I asked you. I think me and you's probably going to run over and look at it here the next day or two, see what it looks like, and hopefully when it dries up enough, get in there and start turning dirt and do some more spraying, after a week or two, and then maybe sow it to clover and let her eat or let them eat.
Yep.
Move some stands. I got to move a stand over, and I got some other ideas, that I picked up on that probably talk about later on in the season. But
yeah, we'll definitely have time. It's been a good run of guests that we've had on, and we had John today. Easton was on last week. I thought that was a really good conversation we had with him, and I'm going to try to get some more scheduled. As of right now, when this is being recorded, John is the last one in a stretch of it's been 7 or 8 weeks, I think. And I'd like to continue that. So hopefully we'll have some more good guests coming on. I know I've mentioned in our podcast group, and if you guys listen to the podcast and you're on Facebook and you haven't yet, go to our group for the podcast. It's RHO Podcast Patrons, because I haven't thought of a better name yet. And then that's kind of where we'll ask questions for the podcast. I will put some exclusive content on there. I will announce guests that are coming up, so if you have any questions for them, you can ask them on there, and then we can ask them for you on the podcast. All that kind of stuff. Definitely go join that group. But I think one of the last things I put on there was asking what guests you guys would want to hear from. And if anybody listening has somebody that they'd want to hear from or in mind, that whether it's, a big name or whether it's somebody maybe you haven't heard of all that much, like even though people know Grandpa Ray Outdoors, they may not know John O'Brien as the guy behind it. So, but he's a great guest. Luke Oswald from a Publicly Challenged podcast, great guest. Like guys like that, or whether it's, like the Forrest Bonans of Drury Outdoors, those guys of the world, or the Easton Holder of Raised Hunting. If you guys got someone you want to listen to,
The Nate Burgess of Orchardville.
I mean, basically,
Kansas.
that doesn't get any bigger than that.
Kansas. Orchardville, Kansas. Right.
If you got anybody that you want to hear from and you'd like to see on the podcast, let us know, and I'll at least reach out to them. So you can do that, again, through the Facebook group or through any of our social media or even through our website or our email or any of that.
There's an idea sparking here.
Okay, this is dangerous.
I see the smoke coming out of Jeff's ears.
an Illinois native, Stan Potts. There he is.
I'll put him on the list.
All right.
Put him on the list.
Thought I seen something smoking over there.
You seen him smoking.
Yep. Well, I'll try to line up more guests, because I really enjoy talking to people, and I learn just as much from them as I think probably anybody listening does. And we have a lot of fun talking to them, hearing stories like the hog hunting story from Luke. That was one of the best ones we've had on the podcast, in my opinion. So if you guys haven't, definitely go back and listen to the Luke Oswald podcast where we talked to him about foraging and hunting and spearing hogs and all that. But unless anybody else has anything for tonight,
I'm about to get speared over here, I think.
yeah. Well, we'll let you guys do that off air.
Yeah, what is that, like the 4th joke now?
At least. Maybe more than that. We're going to have to keep a counter on those. I'll have to come up with a sound on the soundboard for those. It'd be something
Let's not.
Yeah, we don't need to see that.
So
Nate
Nobody
keeps
needs to
waving
hear
his
that.
rod at me. I don't know what's going on.
if you guys want to support the podcast, again, we appreciate you all tuning in every week, the ones that do, and the new ones, we appreciate you guys too. That's one way, easy way to support us, is just keep tuning in. Hopefully it's enjoyable for you guys. You're learning something and having a lot of fun with us. But other ways you guys can support, be sure to check out what Rodney Hawkins has going on. Not only is he a land specialist with Midwest Farm and Land, but he's also got RG Outdoors that he just recently opened. Now, with Midwest Farm and Land, if you guys don't know a lot about them, they're not an average real estate company. In 2022 alone, they sold over $85 million worth of ground. They've got agents like Rodney all over Illinois. They're really a local company with a national reach. For more info on them, anything they got, if you want to list property, if you're looking for property to buy, if you just have questions on the market or where it's at, kind of get the ball rolling on what you're looking for, call Rodney directly at 618-925-3153. He'll get you taken care of. As I mentioned, he's also started RG Outdoors. They've currently got hard and soft-sided blinds and blind chairs all from Radix Blinds. In addition to an all-natural scent elimination product called Camo Dust, they now have Byrna self-defense weapons and Tacticam trail cameras. He's adding stuff all the time. So if you want to check any of that stuff out or keep up with all the new stuff that they're going to have, you can check out their Facebook page, RG Outdoors. You can email them at rgoutdoors@yahoo.com, or again, just call Rodney directly at 618-925-3153. You heard us talk to John tonight, again, from Grandpa Ray Outdoors. If you want to support us and try out some of their products and support your deer herd with some of the best seed that's on the market, are there others that are good? I'm sure there are, but we've been using Grandpa Ray's for at least a couple years now, and I don't see any reason to change. So if you guys want to try them out, go to grandparayOutdoors.com and use our discount code RHO Podcast. That's all lowercase, no space, and you'll get 5% off your order there. Again, check out our website, ridgehunteroutdoors.com. Anything you see on there that you want, use the discount code RHOPOD to get 10% off. That's all caps, RHOPOD, and you get 10% off there. On our social media pages, we're Ridge Hunter Outdoors on Facebook and Instagram. Those are the ones we use the most often. The Facebook group that I mentioned, again, is RHO Podcast Patrons. That'll get you some exclusive content, questions, and stuff like that. And then follow us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like and comment on any of the videos on there. All that stuff helps out as well. You don't even have to spend any money to do it. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but that helps in the algorithms and whatnot. So appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll catch you again on the next one. Hopefully you're tuning in this Friday for another episode of Full Draw Friday. If not, we'll see you next Monday. Thanks, everybody.